The wisdom of Søren Kierkegaard. Søren Kierkegaard was born on May 5th, 1813 in Copenhagen, Denmark. He lived his entire life there and is considered one of the most influential Danish philosophers. Kierkegaard's father was a deeply religious man who had a strong influence on Søren's philosophical and theological thinking. His father's melancholy and sense of guilt deeply shaped Søren's view of human existence and faith. Kierkegaard attended the University of Copenhagen, where he studied theology, philosophy, and literature. He completed his master's thesis on irony, focusing particularly on Socrates. Kierkegaard was briefly engaged to Regine Olsen, but broke off the engagement, believing that his melancholic and introspective nature made him unfit for marriage. The decision haunted him throughout his life and influenced much of his writing. Although not always recognized in his lifetime, Kierkegaard is now seen as a founding figure of existentialism, especially for his emphasis on individual choice, subjective truth, anxiety, and the leap of faith. Strange habits. He took the same daily walk in Copenhagen, wore formal clothes constantly, and hoarded identical items like walking sticks. Life as art. Kierkegaard viewed his entire life as a work of art designed to express existential ideas through personal suffering and irony. Many pseudonyms. He wrote under dozens of fictional names, each with distinct views and voices, creating dialogues between them across his books. Wrote in cafes but feared noise. He worked obsessively in Copenhagen cafes, yet was so sensitive to sound, he sometimes paid to have nearby patrons leave so he could write in peace. Had a spying spot in the city. He frequently stood at a specific corner in Copenhagen to observe people unnoticed, watching the flow of life like a detached narrator. Feared marriage would kill his genius. Kierkegaard believed that marriage would trap him in bourgeois normalcy and destroy his creative and philosophical powers. Mocked publicly. After provoking a satirical magazine, The Corsair, he became a public laughingstock, yet he saw the humiliation as part of his spiritual path. Greeted by children as the man with the broken heart. After The Corsair mocked him, kids in the street would shout this nickname. He leaned into the role like a tragic character. Most important works of Søren Kierkegaard. Either or from 1843. Explores two ways of living. Aesthetic life, focused on fun, beauty, and avoiding commitment. Ethical life, focused on responsibility, duty, and making meaningful choices. Encourages readers to think about how they live and what really matters in life. Written using fictional characters to present different points of view. Fear and Trembling from 1843 looks at the biblical story of Abraham and Isaac to talk about faith and obedience. Introduces the idea of the leap of faith, believing in something even when it doesn't make logical sense. Suggests that true faith is personal, risky, and not always explainable by reason or rules. Philosophical and cultural meaning of Kierkegaard, founder of existentialism. Kierkegaard is considered the first major thinker to focus on the individual's inner life, anxiety, and freedom. Ideas that shaped existentialism and influenced philosophers like Jean-Paul Sartre and Martin Heidegger. Focus on individual responsibility. He believed that people must make their own choices and take responsibility for their lives, even when facing uncertainty, fear, or despair. This idea shaped modern views on freedom and selfhood. Emphasis on subjectivity. He argued the truth is found through personal experience, not just logic or objective facts. For him, faith, love, and meaning are deeply personal and can't be fully explained through reason alone. Critique of organized religion. Kierkegaard was deeply Christian, but critical of the institutional church, which he saw as hollow and overly formal. He called for a more authentic, personal relationship with God. Lasting influence on literature and psychology. His exploration of despair, anxiety, and the human condition inspired writers like Dostoevsky and Franz Kafka, as well as psychologists like Carl Jung and Viktor Frankl. Kierkegaard's work invites us to wrestle with life's big questions, not by giving answers, but by urging us to take them seriously, personally, and passionately. Søren Kierkegaard's 15 most profound quotes. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. People settle for a level of despair they can tolerate and call it happiness. The most common form of despair is not being who you are. Take a chance and you may lose. Take not a chance and you have lost already. The unhappy person is never present to themselves because they always live in the past or the future. Hope is passion for what is possible. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. The question is not to be or not to be, it is what we should be until we are not. To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what isn't true. The other is to refuse to believe what is true. People demand freedom of speech as a compensation for the freedom of thought, which they seldom use. It is very important in life to know when your cue comes. Once you label me, you negate me. A road well begun is the battle half won. The important thing is to make a beginning and get underway. A fire broke out backstage in a theatre. The clown came out to warn the public. They thought it was a joke and applauded. He repeated it. The acclaim was even greater. I think that's just how the world will come to an end, to the general applause of wits who believe it's a joke.